So today's midlife conversation is for you if you are rubbish with money. And I know that 99% of you will put your hand up and go, I'm rubbish with money. And the other 1% will be lying because we are all rubbish with money in some way or form and or other. And this is why I wanted you guys to come on today, the Financielle girls, to talk us through that you are never too late to change your mindset with money. And what I love about what you do is you don't do it in a boring way, because I think the reason why most of us kind of back away from anything to do with finance and accounts is because it's really dull. So do you want to say hello, introduce yourselves, and how Financielle came about?
So yeah, I know it's definitely boring out there when it comes to money. So we're here for that challenge. We're sisters actually. So I'm Laura and this is Holly.
Yeah.
And we're co-founders of an app called Financielle. And Financielle started as a community first before it was an app, and it was literally all about that, Andrea. It was about making money relatable, not intimidating, not overwhelming. And it just really gathered momentum because people, when they found a few hints and tips and I guess like a mindset around how you can manage your money, it just felt so much more better, didn't they?
Yeah, I think we all know the traditional financial systems, like banks were built by men for men, and everybody forgets that. So then when the kind of marketing content or financial products or just talking about money on the news, it's always men. Like people informing us about money, it's always men. It doesn't necessarily correlate with women, and it doesn't speak to us. We were like, we can make this fun. Like, this is easy. To make things fun is really easy. Why is it that finance hasn't kind of touched that?
And it's not dumbing it down, because it's not. It's just straight talking. And I think there's a difference between let's make it really simple. It's not that. Women don't need it oversimplified. They just need it straight talking because we're busy with lots going on. And I feel like the world made it a bit harder than it needed to be.
What I love about you both is when you first came into my world was I saw you talk. I saw you on stage, and you were at an event that we were both speaking at. I was so blown away by you that I had to come up and say hello and just say I think you're awesome, because I love how you normalized the whole thing around finances. And Lauren, if you want to talk us through the story of how your finances started sort of getting out of control, because for me I was literally at the back of the room watching light bulbs go off above people's heads as every single one of us went, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I do that. Talk us through your sort of financial journey and how you got to where you are.
Definitely. And I think that, the start of that presentation, Andrea, was about vulnerability, because there's such a lack of trust in finance. And there's also, because we're British and we're very private about certain things. I think there was research done that women are more open about their sexual partners than they are their bank accounts with their friends. And I was like, I can probably imagine that, and I think one of the things I said was if the Sex and the City girls got around the table and talked about like shoes, handbags, men, health, money, it just would slide in there as kind of one of the topics that we like to talk about. And we do that with our friends. It's definitely a topic of conversation. But I shared the story that I was normal like everyone else, and in my early 20s had a really good job, had a really good upbringing. There was no big struggle. I was very normal, and I was still awful with money. The minute I got it, I would spend it. I would whether it's clothes or food, eating out, treats, laziness, just lots of things. There was no plan. There was never a plan. It was the money comes in, and then some bills go out, and then there's some money left over, and then there's no money left over, and I'm kind of in my overdraft, and I'm just not looking at my bank account until payday. And that resulted in £25,000 worth of debt on, other than a bit of a car, or not much I could tell you it was on. No savings, thinking that a house was just impossible for me to get on the property ladder. And it's very important for people in Britain. We do like getting our first home and aspiring for that. And on top of that, I fell pregnant in my early 20s and suddenly was like, okay, it's get your shit together time. You can't carry on living like this. And also you don't feel very good. Like, this is stressful. Why would you want to? And so I went on a journey of, I was a lawyer at the time, and taking things that are quite complicated or positioned as overwhelming and making it quite simple for a business was my job. So I was like, oh, we can do this with finance. I'll just do one thing at a time and get good at that one thing and not really think about the kind of crazy long-term goal, and built momentum from there. And I guess, so I went on a really good, what I call a financial wellness journey, which was from not being in control and being overwhelmed to very organized. And I guess that's probably where you could come in, thinking, what was that like watching me do that as a sister?
Oh, we thought she was crazy because at the time, we always say Laura lived like a champagne lifestyle and Prosecco budget. She was buying designer handbags and going out for dinner with her colleagues and buying Veuve Clicquot, but always put on the credit card, like it was how it was perceived and how you looked, and
keeping up with the Joneses.
Absolutely, as we all are guilty of doing in one way or another, and at different times in our life as well. But Laura really doubled down in our family. We got out for dinner, and she even got to a point where she was doing cash envelopes. So she'd be like, okay, so my portion of dinner is not being uber frugal, just being really organised. And we were like, what is going on?
I would get the envelope out at like an Italian dinner and, literally, oh no, that's my food envelope. Oh no, that's my fuel envelope. And everyone's like, what is she doing?
I vividly remember that happening. But do you know the saying where it's like people watch and then they ask questions or whatever it might be? Laura then got to a place where she was super confident about money, really vocal about how much was in her bank account, what she was saving for, what her goal was, how much debt she'd paid off. And it was kind of like, this is really like a bit of a taboo, and we're talking about debt around the table with our friends, but it's quite infectious. And then I was kind of like, can you teach me to do the same?
You were so brave as well, because there's not many of us would have the courage to, literally put cash into an envelope and get it out at a dinner table and go, no, this is all I can afford to have today, because the shame of it. And, especially when, you were known as Champagne Sheila, as it were, you're the one buying the Veuve Clicquot and this kind of thing. How did you shift your mindset?
So I think it was you spot on, Andrew, and it was very private at first. And so it was definitely worried about what people would think. I think I'd always pinned my achievements to physical things, and so I really wanted a very good car. I always wanted a Range Rover Evoque, and it was something that the directors at work used to drive. And so this aspirational, I've made it. If I drive that car, people will think, oh, she's a, if I even think back, why did I become a lawyer? I became a lawyer because my mum's best friend was a lawyer when we were growing up, and I had that influence, but it looked good. It looked important. Lawyers on Ally McBeal was a big thing when I was a teenager, and I aspired to be this kind of prestige. I wanted people to think I'd done well. And the same with probably looks and, buying things and being just physically looking like you've made it. And I slowly started to disassociate my own worth with physical things, to the point where, when I got on this journey of, okay, I'm going to pay down my debt, it gets addictive. When you do one thing at a time, when you're not overwhelmed, you can gamify it. So then I'm sat there staring at some, Mulberry handbags, one that I love. I had it when I was 18, two that sit there gathering dust. And I sold them. And when £400-500 comes into your life, when you've not got a lot and you're paying off debt, that's addictive, and it's a feel good, and it's a dopamine hit that's like what you would get if you bought it. It is, yeah. And so I think it definitely wasn't overnight, but I slowly didn't connect my value to physical things. And then when I felt good, I wanted to share about it with people. And then when I saw it working, when my stress levels went down and my anxiety went down and my happiness went up and my glow went up, I was more confident then to share why, and even then you'd get the shock factor. Like I said, people aren't used to you talking about, oh, I'm paying down my debt. It's like, don't talk about you're in debt, which is ironic because there's, finance is thrust at us every corner, but if you've got it, oh, you're naughty. So I think that was probably part of it.
From a perspective of someone who's in their middle years, and maybe they've gone through the kind of the 20s of, wow, I'm earning my first pay packet and I'm rubbish with it because I'm I'm out in the shops and I'm buying all the things and I don't necessarily have the responsibilities. And then obviously your life gradually changes as you get a little bit older. Our attitude to debt changes, and also the things that we get in debt for changes, and just living is a stressful experience. And obviously, every headline talks about a cost of living crisis, but really we've always been in a cost of living crisis, because everybody lives just beyond their means, whatever their means are. So I'm interested to hear what your take is on, say, you are this is primarily for women, but for anyone who is watching or listening to this, and they're really struggling financially, but it's not because they're going on fancy holidays or have a nice car or anything like that. It's just life has, and it happens. It's like compound interest in the worst kind of way. It happens incrementally, and then suddenly you look around and think, I cannot do this. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. What advice do you give to someone who finds himself in that situation?
So I think firstly, the interesting thing is when you switch the goal to being financially well rather than wealthy, it suddenly makes something more achievable. You know, saying you want to be a better runner or running a marathon, they're two very different things. One is completing 26.2 miles of absolute craziness. I'm sure I'm sure we know a man in our lives that does that, you know. But that's just so far away that most people won't try the couch to 5K, or they won't even walk more because I can't achieve that, my age, my health, my situation. Whereas if it's, do you want to feel a bit fitter? Do you want to be able to run, even if it's running to the end of the street? That's just a bit more achievable. And so I think firstly, taking the position, I want to feel more financially well, there's 2 or 3 things that you can do immediately to do that. You know, one is doing a budget. And not trying to do a strict, intense, frugal budget. A budget is a plan. It's literally just telling money where it's got to go. And that's even the case if you've not got a lot of it. Maths is still maths. So whether you do the budget or don't do the budget, money's coming in and money's going out. So kind of forgiving yourself that little bit and going, okay, let's write this down. Not kind of trying to be the best budgeter you can be or trying to save as much as possible. Just writing that down, I promise you will make someone feel better. And by feeling better, we feel more confident and we feel a bit more in control and we feel a bit more relaxed about it. And what then tends to happen is snowball. So the better you can get at the budget and the more attention you can give it, the more space you will have in it to put towards things that you have to put money towards, which again, as we get older, it feels like that bit gets bigger. It really, really does, versus what you do in earlier in life. Saving up for things that are coming up, which again, game changer. What do we say about sinking funds?
Christmas is the same time every year, and so many people that come to us in our community around the November time going, or December or even January, going, oh my god, Christmas, it's really like put me back, it's kind of cost much more than I ever thought it to be. And Laura's always like, well, what did you spend last year? Go and have a look and kind of see. And then 1st of January, first paycheck, there's 12 months till Christmas, there's 12 paydays. Say you want £1,000, split that up month by month and put that away in a separate pot. And we say sinking fund saves lives, but I think it's just, it takes the pressure off, especially on women as well. Like, we control 85% of the world's spending, but not the wealth. So in the home, you'll probably be looking after the grocery budget and the meal plan, which is frustrating job for me. But and you'll be looking, we need to get school shoes, we're going on a family holiday, all
gifts
those
to people. Yeah. It all lands on the woman, and so
it really does.
And so kind of making a plan for those things that are coming out this month, but that are coming out in future months. It's so, if you think about it, this is momentum building, that I'm okay now, I'm also going to be okay next month, I'm also going to be okay in December, because there's a plan. You just get better and better at it, so that becomes a habit. So that's then not an effort, it becomes like a muscle memory. So then the next thing you learn is, okay, I want to make sure I've got enough for retirement, or I'd like to make sure I've got a nice holiday every year. That's important. Those 2 things are important to me. I'd like to invest in a really expensive gym and wellness thing, but it's not in my budget now. You then work on your budget to find room to fund those things, and then they just become like normal. So I think, yeah, definitely about taking one thing at a time and not trying to become the wealthiest person in the room. But actually, you know, there's a lot of years ahead of lots of us, and there's no better time like now to kind of take control and make a plan and just start slow and not worry about sprinting.
Everything you said makes so much sense, and it's an attitude that I try and live by throughout every aspect of my life, not necessarily just finances. And I've had to learn that lesson. You know, I've had my bumps in the road with everything, and that includes finance. But it's that understanding of, you know, you might look at your bank account or what have you, or your spreadsheet if you're that organized, and think, oh my gosh, for me to get out of this hole, I need to win the lottery. You know, it's so big. But actually breaking it down and chipping away at it tiny bit by tiny bit, you're still making an impact. But we have this mental block where we think, no, this is a big thing, so I need a big thing that's going to fix it. And actually it's not. It's taking tiny consistent action, and that's what's going to gradually chip away at it so that it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Exactly. Well, so if you imagine, Andrea, if someone didn't have, when you hear about the lottery winners or the footballers that run out of money, celebrities, personalities, if they've never had that habit, the positive habits in place, if you can't manage, £10,000, you can't manage 10 million. It really doesn't matter, because ironically, I know people just don't really believe it, but that's what the stats show. And so actually a big chunk of money at any point in our life doesn't nail it. We like to think that a financial user, if they're a habituated user and they're really good with the budget, no matter what money comes in, they've already decided what they're doing with it.
It's got a job.
Yeah, it's already got a job before it's come into their life. So if £50,000 dropped on their doorstep, it wouldn't be, shall we all go on holiday? It'll be, oh, okay, right, I'm behind on my pension, that's going there. I'll fill up next year's sinking funds. Should we go on holiday? It's kind of like, it's already planned for. And I think that's the thing. It can be really overwhelming, but one big payday is probably not what you want either, in these little incremental gains. And one example we had, one of our community members, Ruth, she a 20-year relationship ended in her mid-50s, and they weren't married, and her pension plans were connected to this person that literally just left one day. And she came to Financielle and said, I just don't know what's happening with my money. Like, I'm scared that I could even not keep my home that I rent. She didn't own it either. But she was one thing at a time. So we went through, her using the app to budget, to then afford her house, to then afford to do nice things to the house, because she'd never done that before. And then it was like, actually, I'm worried about pension. She wasn't that far off, but she did need to put more into it than she'd kind of been doing passively through work. So there's a plan for it. And so now I think, £400 or £500 a month goes into her pension extra. She's going to close that gap in the next 10 years. No problem. She does not. She said, I used to worry every day about what was going to happen to me because I was on my own. And now she's actually, honestly, the most empowered and, I guess, she's ever been, especially when it comes to money.
One of the things that you taught me through not only the talk that I saw you, but then signing up to your app and the newsletter and this kind of thing, which was a game changer, was I realized that I approached everything from an attitude of lack, and there was never enough, because there is never enough. There will always be bills. There'll always be some sort of crisis happening that you're having to firefight or what have you. And it was this idea of putting money aside that was, Nick and I call it our WAM money. It's a WAM, our walking around money. But it's our once a month when we go through, and the bank that we're with Starling, and it has spaces.
Yes.
We find that really useful to compartmentalize, right? That's bills, that's this, that's emergency, that's whatever. And then we allocate, and it's not much. It's really not much. It's like £100 or something. It's not huge. That goes into the WAM money fund. The deep joy when I know that I've seen a Joe Malone candle or whatever it is, and I think, yes, I can buy that, and that's guilt-free. And it sounds so stupid because I have literally just bought one. And the joy of when I like that, and I think, I did that. Now, people might think, oh, for the love of God, what the hell? What difference? If you have been financially terrified, financially terrified, and you've been in a situation where you think, this is so overwhelming, I don't know what to do. It sounds so wrong to say, I will never buy anything nice again, because that sounds so shallow and so awful. But the deep joy that you get just from putting a little bit of money aside every month, that's your treat, makes such a difference when it comes to dealing with all the horrible stuff. So I need to thank you for teaching me that.
Not at all. And think about this, right? So women especially carry guilt when it comes to giving to others. And so if you didn't have that space, the WAM space, which we have to do, and that's the next newsletter, watch out for it, we're going to be featuring it. But if you didn't have that, where does that gift come from? Because if you follow a budget, what category would it come from? It wouldn't come from anywhere. You would do the groceries, you would make sure the family's sorted, you would make sure gifts are sorted. And then if you decided to buy that, and it's for £95, £100, whatever it is, you feel guilty because you're indulging in something. But actually, what we say is when it's in the budget and it's in a category and it's gone to a space, you've already spent it mentally. It's gone. You've already decided that's what you're doing with it. So the pressure's off. So when you're in that moment of wanting to buy something, you're not taking from something else. And another big tip that actually we give people is create a giving space that you might start with £10 in the month, because generally people would donate £10-20 in the month, whether it's to, whether the poppy appeal or to tipping someone in a restaurant more than you would usually, like this giving amount. We all probably give it anyway, but putting it in your budget and sending it off to that space means that's already gone. It's not yours anymore. And so then when the opportunity comes up that you want to give it, even if you don't have a lot, because you talked about this point of lack, if you feel like I'd love to donate to charity, but I'm my own charity, things are tough right now. Actually, most of us could probably look at something, and the joy that it gives you to give to someone else.
I think it's one of my favourite spaces because, like you said, we go with this mentality of lack, but people have come to us on universal credit, and people come to us that are CFOs that bring in hundreds of £1,000s a year when it comes to a salary and still can't manage the money. It's not unique to someone on a low income. The giving one, oh, I love that one. If I see like an inspiring story or something that needs help or whatever, years ago I would have been like, oh, but can I afford it? And there's this mental tug all the time. We have so much noise going on in our heads as women. We look after so many things. We take on emotional burdens, and the well-being of others is one of those things. And if I literally have £50 now, and I would like to up it probably in the future of a giving fund, and I have no hesitation of giving to charity. No. It just makes me feel so good. And
but you may have done.
Yeah, I would have done. I would have tugged and toyed and felt really guilty and walked away from a charity thinking, oh God, I should have done that. I think this aspect of planning and just gives, and this autonomy and creating a budget and making a decision at the beginning of the month and not worrying about it all month is just one less life admin thing on my list, and that's something I'm just so grateful for.
And I think you summed up there really the reason why so many women do that when it comes to money, because it's one more thing on the list. It's one more thing. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to be organised about this now as well. And actually, once because I've got 1,000 things that I've got to think about. But actually, once you do make that shift and you do get a little bit more organised, like being organised in every other part of your life, actually it becomes a lot simpler. If someone is watching this now and they are literally just in a tailspin of stress and worry about their financial situation, what's 3 things that you would get them to do first of all, just to get them back on track?
The first thing is this is maths, and it's not hard maths, but it's numbers. And the reason I say that is it's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of your success in life. It's not a reflection on your worth. It's the maths. It's all maths. But we do talk about personal finance being 90% personal and 10% finance for a reason, which is there's so much emotion that goes into planning it. But for someone to kind of remove as much emotion around the numbers as possible, because it is what it is, and there's things you can do to move numbers. So I think first giving yourself a bit of a break and saying this is a maths problem. Starting there is a really good tip. And the next one is absolutely doing a budget. Now, if you are in a relationship and you're in a good relationship, you should be doing that together. The woman should not be picking up the burden of the family budget. And actually, so many marriage problems or relationship problems come either because people genuinely aren't compatible when it comes to money, and I do believe that, by the way, but I also believe that people can, if they don't talk about it and they don't work on it together, how do you expect to be good at it as well? And so and if you're not in a relationship, getting together with a friend that you trust and saying, can you help me with this? I want to, we have people send pictures in of like being on the living room floor on a Sunday, and there's papers everywhere, and they're like bank statements and pension papers, and knowing your numbers, knowing what comes in every month and what goes out every month and what debt you have. You can do like free credit checks that'll tell you all the debt that you have if you want a simple way to do it, and what savings and pensions you've got. It's a project. Like, it's not easy. Don't expect to do it easily, but actually it's very cathartic. It's kind of like clearing out that drawer in the bedroom that you've not cleared out in a while. But knowing your numbers allows you to set a plan. And that's usually the first time that someone that's in the situation you've described has probably done that in a long time, if at all. The feeling you get is kind of like that first workout or that first walk on a fitness journey. Rush.
It's like there's lots of money personalities, and that's always difficult in a couple. Someone might be an ostrich putting their head in the sand, doesn't want to know, refuses to look, possibly an impulsive spender, and just, I'll wing it till the end of the month, I don't really care. Then you might have someone in a relationship that we like to call the money geek, that's in a positive, sometimes can be in a positive way, but actually can be sometimes detrimental, because they're tracking every single penny, and they might talk down to the person that's the impulsive spender, as if to say, like, oh, you're not being very responsible here, and whatnot. So just coming together to know your numbers is an easy thing, because there's no personality clash in that. It's literally, like Laura said, it's factual, it's maths.
Yeah.
What's our starting point, and let's kind of do it.
You
Rip the plaster off.
You find some people go, like, especially when men come to a conversation, it's usually that they don't realise how much groceries cost. They genuinely don't. Why are we not got any money, kind of blaming the woman because they tend to do the shop, and they go, do you want to have a go? Do you want to have a look at this? Do you want to do the Asda shop online? And so, it's an interesting exercise. The third thing, Andrea, is a money minute. So it's something that we talk about quite a lot, which is if someone is overwhelmed when it comes to money, a little bit like ripping the plaster off that Holly said, facing it every day for 60 seconds. It's even like a little money meditation, isn't it? But opening up your bank account, looking at it, checking it. We've had people spot fraud that way. What's that payment? I didn't know what that was. Or I was double paying for house insurance for a year recently and hadn't realised. But because on one of my money minutes I spotted it, I was like, hang on, I should look at this. I own a financial business, and I did that, and so a money minute can take the sting out of finances a little bit, and that compounds. It's like the Atomic Habits, or reading 10 pages a day. By the end of the year, you're doing a lot. So I definitely recommend people taking a little money minute to check in with their money, check in with their budget, and then crack on with the day and forget about it. And I promise people will feel better.
Brilliant. And where can people reach you if they're thinking, these girls are fabulous, I need to track them down?
So we would have traditionally said social media, so obviously Instagram and TikTok is kind of where we live, but we now actually have a community space in our app. So it's brand new, it's kind of just warming up, but the wealth of knowledge from the ladies especially, and some men in that community, is amazing. People share wins, they share stories. You could submit things anonymously if you kind of want to ask questions, and it'll kind of get surfaced in that space. So just like your community, I feel like peer-to-peer learning is better than anything from us anyway. So send that DM, we answer them. Don't think that there's any question we haven't seen, because we've seen them all. You will just be like everyone else.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for today. You will have helped so many people. It's been a joy. Lovely to see you again.
Oh, thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a single one. And if you want to join in the conversation, head over to Facebook to Andrea McLean, This Girl is on Fire private Facebook group, and I'll see you there.